Right friends, welcome back to lecture part of 36th week. This is from 31st August to 6th September and let us look at the important events of the week. One rank, one pension. Almost a 4-decade old demand of the veterans was fulfilled when the government announced one rank, one pension. Second is Manipur violence. Probably it could have been avoided. 8 people killed in the Manipur violence subsequent to the bills passed in the assembly for introducing inner line permit or popularly known as ILP. Allotment of 69 marginal oil blocks, but there is a strategic shift from cost recovery model to revenue sharing model. Look at the next one. Supreme Court lifts the stay on Santara rituals of Jains. Rajasthan High Court stated previously that it tantamounts to criminal act, but now the Supreme Court says that the religious practices are going to be discussed in much deeper detail. Next important aspect is women in Navy to get permanent commission, landmark judgment by Delhi High Court. Law Commission recommends for abolition of death penalty except in few cases. G20 Finance Ministers meet at Ankara, Turkey. They talked about the fallout of competitive devaluation by countries. 70th anniversary of the end of World War II, China shows its military might, showcases its military might. SBI and ICICI banks are designated as domestic systemically important banks. We are going to discuss what is meant by DSIPs as well as the GSIPs. Then government accepts AP Shah panel recommendations on minimum alternate tax. What is the minimum alternate tax and what is the issue with regard to the foreign portfolio investors? We are going to discuss in detail. Let us look at the first issue, that is one rank, one pension. After several years, it's a long wait for the veterans. In fact, NDA during the election canvassing announced that they will introduce one rank, one pension, and after more than 1 year after coming to power, this one rank, one pension scheme was formally given a go ahead by the government, and the fuller details will be made known after the one-member judicial commission gives its report, but the tentative stipulations or the tentatively agreed norms we are going to discuss now. One is OROP. What is OROP? OROP is persons working in military forces after their retirement. That means the persons retiring with the same rank, same length of service. Persons of military forces retiring with same rank and same length of service should get same pension irrespective of their year of retirement. If a Havaldar retires in the year 1976, after putting 20 years of service. Similarly, if a Havaldar retires in 2000 after putting up 20 years of service again, both of them should get same pension because they worked in same rank and same length of service. So please don't forget, when the persons of a military retires with same rank, same length of service, should get same pension irrespective of the date of retirement. This became a necessity because of the reasons the persons retired in 70s, 80s are getting very less pension in comparison to the persons retired in around 2000 or 2010. That's why this is the decades old demand of the armed forces, and ultimately Government of India agreed in principle to grant one rank, one pension, and the details I have given here. OROP will be the average of maximum and minimum pension scales in the year 2013. That means 2013 will act as the base year. Second important point is it is effective from 1st July 2014. Revision will be made once in 5 years. One member judicial commission will submit its report in 6 months. And initially they told that it will not be applicable for the armed forces personnel who took premature retirement. But the next day the Prime Minister of India clarified that the persons who took a premature retirement are also entitled for OROP. But veterans want much more. They want a fixation by taking maximum in 2013. They want it to be effective from 1st April 2014 instead of 1st July 2014, and they want a revision to be made once in a year or 2 years. Now these differences will be sorted out through the Judicial Commission, which is expected to give its report within 6 months. So it is the culmination of, or you can say bringing its logical conclusion, decades old demand of one rank, one pension. And look at the facts now. There are around 25 lakh veterans who retired. In addition to 25 lakh veterans, 6 lakh war widows or widows are there. Then currently the pension bill is around 54,000 crores of rupees, and to implement this OROP, every year the additional burden will be around 8,000 to 10,000 crores of rupees, and at the same time arrears will be around 10,000 crores of rupees. And for the veterans, arrears will be paid in 4 half-yearly installments, but for war widows or widows, they will be paid at once. So with this, the decade-old issue is heading to its logical conclusion, right? Look at the next issue, Manipur violence. What is the history behind Manipur violence? Let us look at in detail. Manipur Assembly recently passed following bills I listed out in the left side, that is Protection of Manipur People Bill 2015, Manipur Land Revenue and Land Reforms 7th Amendment Bill of 2015, Manipur Shops and Establishment 2nd Amendment Bill of 2015. These bills were passed. Basic idea of passing these bills is to provide inner line permit. To provide inner line permit. I would like to tell you a brief about inner line permit. The origin of inner line permit, you have to go back to 1873. In 1870s, Britishers have brought this inner line permit based on Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation of 1873. Based on Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation of 1873, Britishers brought inner line permit concept so as to protect their tea gardens in the northeastern part of the country. That means whoever want to enter those areas, they have to take special permit. And the legacy continued. And 3 states at present in the northeast already have inner line permit. Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram and Nagaland. These 3 states at present have inner line permit system, whereas this Manipur has not have any inner line permit because of the reason it was not ruled by British. It was a princely state. That's why this inner line permit system was not there in Manipur previously. If you look at the geographicality of Manipur, around 80 to 90% are hills. It is sparsely populated with the majority of Kukis and Nagas followed by Mijos and Chins. These are hilly tribe people, and 10% area is in plains, and predominant population, or you can say overcrowded population, is Meiteis. So Meiteis are the population residing in the plains, and so as to prevent the outsiders entering the state. All of you are well aware there is lot of migration officially, unofficially takes place from the adjoining countries of Myanmar as well as Bangladesh. Several Bangladeshis enter India, and Myanmar has got border with the 4 Indian states, please don't forget. So to avoid the problem with the outsiders entering the state, because Meiteis are residing in plains which has got less geographical area. This inner line permit system is proposed to be brought, and as such these three legislations were passed by the Manipur Assembly. That means, let me tell you once again, inner line permit will be introduced in Manipur, and due to which outsiders entering the state require special permission to enter the state, which is in the Aug, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland and Mizoram. And after the passage of these bills, violence erupted in the state. Why violence erupted? The indigenous people, there are, I have already told you, Kukis, Nagas, Mijos, Chins, they felt that it is the effort of the, or it is the design of the Meiteis to grab the opportunities in hilly regions. They suspected that their lands will be occupied, and it is for the interest of Meiteis, the tribal people felt in such a way, so the violence erupted between these hill tribes as well as Meiteis. And what is the fact? Three problems. One is apprehensions of tribal people that their lands will be usurped by the Meiteis. Second apprehension is 1951 is the deadline as per these bills to identify the outsiders, but several hilly tribes like Kukis, Nagas, they came after 1951, so there is an apprehension that they may be dubbed as outsiders. Third apprehension is no proper records are available with the indigenous tribal people. Because of it, their apprehension further increased. And the main problem is there is not much proper discussion between indigenous tribal people and the Meiteis, and it gave rise to several apprehensions, and at the same time politics played spoil sport in this case, and this issue can be resolved with discussion between indigenous people and Meiteis, and let us hope some better sense to prevail in the region, right? So look at the next one. Allotment of 69 marginal oil fields shift from cost recovery to revenue sharing model. Recently, Government of India took a decision to allot 69 marginal oil fields. Out of these 69 oil blocks, 63 were held by ONGC, 6 were held by Oil India Limited. Total proven reserves are around 89 million tons. They are worth around 70,000 crores of rupees, and per annual production will be around 3,500 crores because they are going to be licensed for 20 years period. And here I would like to tell you 3-4 points with regard to the allotment of oil fields. For the first time, government allotted these oil fields on revenue sharing model. Previously, they used to allot these oil fields on cost recovery model or profit sharing model. You may ask, what is the difference between cost recovery model and revenue sharing model? Cost recovery model is the private parties will invest in the oil fields, and after recovering their cost, then profit will be shared. Private parties will invest in the oil fields. After recovering their initial cost, profit will be shared with the government, and in the present model, there will be some percentage of revenue based on the production. And how this is better in comparison to that, I will discuss in this week's news analysis program. So please don't forget, the change is from cost recovery model or profit sharing model to revenue sharing model. Second important point or the decision undertook by the government is there is a strategic shift towards unified licensing scheme. The person, whoever is taking license, can explore oil, gas, shale gas or coal bed methane if available. That means it is unified licensing policy. The third important point is they can sell this oil or gas to any party at market price. Government will not impose any restriction. Government will not allot you have to sell to this and this person only. There will not be dictated by the government. They are free to sell to anyone. So these three changes were made by the government while allotting these 69 oil fields. Right? First and the foremost is shift from cost recovery model to revenue sharing model. Second one is this is unified license for all the hydrocarbons. Third one is they can sell it to anyone at market prices. So these three changes were made by the government. And please listen to news analysis this week if you want more about the allotment of these oil fields by the government. Look at the next issue. Supreme Court lifts the stay on Sanatan ritual of Jains. All of you are well aware, Rajasthan High Court on August 10th stated that the practice of Santara is the fast unto death, a religious practice by the Jains, and Rajasthan High Court previously stated it tantamounts to criminal act. Now, Supreme Court stayed the order of Rajasthan High Court on the practice of Santara by Jains, and it restored the religious practice of fast unto death by Jains, and it also felt Rajasthan High Court had not discussed with the scholars before taking a decision, and most important is the Supreme Court asked the pertinent question or posed pertinent question to both the central government as well as Rajasthan government on the pertinent question, that is essential and integral practice of religions. Essential and integral practice of religions can be restricted by the state or not. The thing is whether the governments can restrict essential and integral practice of religions, because each and every religion has got several practices. There may be traditional, there may be purely on conventional lines, but whether the state can prevent those religious practices, that is the moot question asked by the Supreme Court to the centre as well as Rajasthan government. Look at the next issue. Women in Navy to get a permanent commission, landmark judgment by Delhi High Court. Delhi High Court categorically stated there should not be any sexist bias, and endeavour to restrict the progress of women is not accepted, stating clearly that Navy women should get permanent commission. You may ask, what is the difference between permanent commission and short service commission? There are two types. One is a short service commission, second one is permanent commission. And probably in the year 2010, based on the judgment of Delhi High Court only, maybe different bench, permanent commission was restored in Army and Air Force. Now permanent commission is available in Army and Air Force, but permanent commission is not available in Navy, and now the Delhi High Court stated that sexist bias is not accepted, so women should be given permanent commission also. Here the difference between permanent commission and short service commission is, short service commission is 10 years extendable up to 14 years, but the permanent commission persons can serve minimum 20 years up to the retirement age, and they are entitled for retirement benefits. So now women will get permanent commission in Navy also at par with the Army and Air Force. Right? A historic decision by Delhi High Court as far as Navy is concerned, and good news for women in Navy. Right? Look into the next one. Law Commission recommends abolition of death penalty. You may ask, what is Law Commission? Law Commission is the executive body. It was started in the year 1955. It is constituted every 3 years. It is executive body. It was not created based on any statute. By government order, it was created, and the time period is 3 years. It was constituted, or it is being constituted once in 3 years. For the first time it was constituted in the year 1955, and the tenure of a 20th Law Commission headed by A.P. Shah ended recently. I think on August 31st, the tenure of the 20th Law Commission ended on 31st August. And from September 1, government is in the process of constituting 21st Law Commission. And what is the purpose of Law Commission? The main purpose of Law Commission is to work for legal reforms. Delivery of justice to the common man is the need of the hour. It should be speedy justice, it should not be delayed, and the justice system should be transparent. And to ensure all these things, this Law Commission advises, and it is advisory body basically to Ministry of Law and Justice. It submits its reports frequently, and recently 262nd report was submitted by Law Commission. This is 20th Law Commission submitted 262nd report, and it stated that death penalty should be abolished except in two cases. One is terrorism related offences, and second is waging war against the state. And except in these two cases, it categorically stated that death penalty should be abolished. Already death penalty is abolished in almost 140 countries across the world. Right? The debate goes on whether to abolish the death penalty or not. But 262nd report stated that death penalty should be abolished except in two types of offences. Look into the next issue around the world. G20 Finance Ministers meet at Ankara. G20 is the group of advanced countries, emerging economies, and European Union. Advanced countries, emerging economies, and European Union. India is also one of the members of G20, and this year its meeting is held at Ankara. Central Bank Governors and Finance Ministers meeting was held at Ankara in Turkey, and here important issues discussed were countries should not resort to competitive currency devaluations. What is meant by competitive currency devaluation? Currency devaluation, deliberately devaluing the currency with a view to give impetus to exports. Recently China has done it. Now G20 stated China has done it, that is different story, but please do not resort to competitive devaluations. Competitive devaluations are not good for the world economy, and they also stated action will be taken to prevent negative spillovers. What is meant by negative spillover? The monetary policies of some of the countries are not good for emerging economies. Nowadays, monetary policy should not be seen in isolation. What will happen if America increases interest rates? Then capital flight will be there. If America goes for quantitative easing, that means buying bonds from the market, giving more money into the hands of the people, then what will happen? Then capital will flow to the emerging economies. That means spillovers due to the actions of advanced economies are causing misery to the economies, that is emerging economies. Second is mitigate uncertainties and promote transparency, right? So, two things primarily discussed. One is please do not resort to competitive devaluation in view of devaluation made by China, and second important point is countries should keep in mind the interests of emerging economies when doing their monetary policies, especially advanced economies, because one after the other they are going for quantitative easing, that means pumping more money into the system. That is causing a lot of misery to the advanced economies in the form of capital flows and capital flight. Right friends, look into the next one. 70th anniversary of end of World War II, China shows its military might. China military 2.3 million strong, 23 lakhs around. Indian military is around 12 to 13 lakhs. So China celebrated 70 years of its victory in World War II. World War II ended in 1945, one country after the other are celebrating victory in the World War II, and recently China celebrated its 70th anniversary of victory of World War II. Two important points I would like to tell you here. The military parade involves foreign troops for the first time. Second important point is Russian President Vladimir Putin is present, which shows growing bond between Russia and China, and this assumed significance because Russia is being isolated by Western world. Third important point is China showed its military might, probably to give a signal to America, because America is coming into the Southeast Asian region or East Asian region with the pivot to Asia, and Japan and America are becoming closer because Japan has got territorial dispute with China, and to deter the pivot to Asia program of United States of America, China showed its might for the first time, right? So remaining things you can go through this PPT. Look into the next issue, basically pertaining to economy and banking. State Bank of India and ICICI Bank are designated as the DSIBs. You may ask, what is DSIB? DSIBs are domestic systemically important banks. Domestic systemically important banks. Though the size of our banks are not much in comparison to the global banks, but still they assume significance because they are too big to fail. The concept of this DSIBs emanate from GSIBs. GSIBs means global systemically important banks. At present, in the world, 30 banks are nominated as global GSIBs, out of which 8 belongs to United States of America. Who nominate GSIBs? Financial Stability Board nominates the global systemically important banks or GSIBs because the failure of those banks will have its own implications in the world financial system, because the failure of Barclays or BNP Paribas or Morgan Chase will have its wider ramifications in the world economic order as a whole. That means they are too big to fail. If they fail, it will have adverse impact on the economic system. So based on the recommendations of Bank for International Settlements based in Basel, Switzerland, this Financial Stability Board gives the list of global systemically important banks. At present, 30 banks are designated as globally systemically important, and 8 are from United States of America, and this global systemically important banks are kept under more surveillance because they should not fail. Second important point is capital requirements will be more for them. They should have more capital so as to prevent the risks associated with the financial system. That means they should not be allowed to fail. So globally, there are 30 globally systemically important banks, but when it comes to India, for the first time, Reserve Bank of India nominated domestic systemically important banks, and here State Bank of India and ICICI Bank falls into this category for the first time, right? And these banks have to maintain capital adequacy ratio, little higher capital adequacy ratio, and they will be monitored quite closely because they should not be allowed to fail. And how these two banks are designated? Because of the reason, because of their size. SBI is the biggest bank in the country. Because of their size, not only size, cross jurisdictional activities and complexity in operations and lack of substitutionability. Because of these reasons, these two banks were declared, and these banks are very small in comparison to the global peers, but still they are very important from the Indian perspective, and they have to maintain little higher capital adequacy. Not only that, they will be kept under scrutiny so that they should not be allowed to fail, right? Look into the last issue of the week, government accepts AP Shah panel committee recommendations on MAT. What is MAT? Minimum alternate tax. What is the meaning of minimum alternate tax? All of you are well aware about, under the Companies Act, companies are required to show profits and losses. Companies are required to show profits and losses. Let us take an example where a company is showing lot of profit and giving dividend to its investors. Giving dividend to its shareholders, it is earning lot of profit, but when it comes to Income Tax Act, they are not paying tax because several concessions they are enjoying under the laws of the land under Income Tax Act, and so as to prevent such situation, that means the companies which are earning profits but they are not paying tax because of the several concessions enjoyed by them, what the government brought is minimum alternate tax. They have to pay fixed tax. This legislation was brought in the year 1996. So it is in vogue from 1996. And recently what happened? In the year 2012, based on the directions of Authority on Advanced Ruling. What is Authority on Advanced Ruling? These are the rulings given by the Income Tax Department when foreigners are investing in India. In advance they will say that tax liability. Authority on Advanced Ruling is used or is the mechanism which tells in advance when some foreigner is investing in the country, your tax liability is this much. And in a case pertaining to Mauritius based investor Castleton, this Authority on Advanced Ruling felt that MAT is applicable to them, and subsequently Income Tax Department gave notices to several FIIs, now they are classified as FPIs, to the tune of around 600 crores to pay minimum alternate tax. And actually that is not applicable to them. From April 1, 2015, Finance Minister clarified MAT will not be imposed on foreign portfolio investors, but with regard to the period prior to April 1, 2015, the matter was referred to AP Shah panel, and AP Shah panel gave its report that minimum alternate tax will not be applicable for foreign portfolio investors because of the sole reason minimum alternate tax is applicable only when the place of business or permanent establishment is in India. Minimum alternate tax is applicable when the place of business or permanent establishment is in India, but in case of FIIs or FPIs, their place of business is not in India and they are just investing in the Indian stock market and they are taking back whenever they want. So literally speaking, they are not coming under the purview of minimum alternate tax. That is the recommendation of AP Shah panel committee, and government accepted the recommendations, and now necessary amendments will be made in Income Tax Act, and now it is clear this foreign portfolio investors need not pay minimum alternate tax, right? And before concluding, what are the important issues in the minds of international investors? International investors are feeling problem with regard to India, and the important issues in the minds of international investors, first is tax terrorism. That means tax notices issued by Indian authorities, Income Tax Department, they issued notices to FPIs, and notices were issued to Vodafone, Cairn in some other cases, and quite often on this Income Tax Department is issuing notices, and that is creating lot of panic to the world investors. That is called tax terrorism. Second is retrospective taxation. What is the difference between retrospective and prospective? If a law is passed, if it is applicable from today, that is prospective. If it is applicable from back date, it is retrospective. But foreigners are worried about retrospective taxation. Third one is no clarity on participatory notes. Sometimes various committees, regulators talk about participatory notes. Some people say we are going to ban it. Some people say more regulation will be there. So these type of issues are bothering the foreign investors. Now it appears government is coming out with one after the other, and let us hope better investment climate to prevail, and let us hope the ease of doing business index to raise from 140 to 250 as promised by the government. And by the by, ease of doing business index is released by World Bank. Please don't forget. Right. With this, let us conclude the lecture part of this week, and please do join for news analysis and features. We are going to discuss about more about this oil blocks. We are going to discuss about various sports awards, right? So please do join for news analysis, and you will also learn about the difference between refugees and migrants. This week's news analysis. Have a nice day. Thank you.